This might be the most accurate Travis Scott Jordan 1 low rep that exists. What's up, sneaker people? It's your boy FB Kicks and Gear. In today's video, we are jumping on the Travis Scott Jordan 1 low Canary yellow, and this is probably the absolute most controversial Travis Scott Jordan 1 that has ever released, for a lot of reasons, and most of it having to do with the fact that they are yellow. But because they are still Travis Scott Jordan 1s, I'm gonna get you guys a legit check guide. So that's what we're doing here today. We have the authentic pair here on the left from GOAT, and we have the rep pair here. I'm not 100% sure what this batch is, but just like in every video, you can go to the Instagram account on the screen so that you'll see all of the detailed shots and images of this shoe so that you can learn up and focus up on the things that we are comparing today so that you can equip yourself with the information that you need to do these legit checks. That's what we're doing here today. Let's get started on the comparison, and we're going to start with the box because that's usually where the first signs of a replica show its face. So on the left here we have the authentic box, and we have the replica box here on the right, which is the size 12.5 women, size 11 men. And at first glance you start to see the typical replica business going on here. Obviously they get the overall image of the boxes correct, but clearly there's a color difference between the authentic box and the replica box. The replica box shade of white cream is just like yellow, almost like a weird tinted super pale lime green, while the authentic box is a full cream color, and it shows itself pretty apparently when we do the side by side. And the browns are also a little bit different. We've got a lighter, more vibrant brown on the authentic and a slightly chocolatier brown on the rep. Easily distinguishable when you get them side by side. So obviously if you can get your hands on an authentic pair to do these comparisons, that's exactly what you want to do. Pink Travis Scott paper that we're used to seeing, and honestly they're more or less the same. The Travis Scott paper on the rep is just a tad bit thinner in feel than the authentic, but color wise and symbol wise they look pretty identical. And thankfully that's it. There's no real special packaging with this, so the box comparison doesn't have to be that in-depth. So let's get into the shoes and really do this legit checking guide. Now I'm going to be honest with you guys, this comparison, this legit checking guide is going to be pretty fucking short because there really is not a lot, if anything, that's different between the rep and the authentic pair. And I'm not saying that in the way that there are a lot of reviewers out here that say reps are one to one and reps are perfect, they're made in the same factory with the same materials. Nah, I'm not saying it in that sense. I'm not trying to shove reps down you guys' throats. I'm saying this honestly as somebody that does this and is super critical of reps when it comes to the authentic pair. There is, to my naked eye right now, there is no differences. I'll put these side by side so we can actually get that angle. I'm telling you guys, I'm looking at this right now and I am just not seeing anything. They've got the leather that is identical. If I'm feeling it right now, the authentic might have just a tad bit thicker leather on these mid panels here, but they look and feel the same. The reverse swoosh leather is identical, even down to the color. This is wild to me. If we look at the outsoles, what do you guys think? From my angle, maybe the rep gum bottom is a little bit lighter, maybe. Actually, I think it is. So that's one thing, but man, that's really hard to tell, even having both side by side. The rep pair is definitely lighter, and it looks like it's a little bit more transparent than on the authentic pair. But outside of that, the details are wild. Looking up the back view here, let me get the corresponding shoe. Looking at the back view here, maybe I'm starting to see a little bit of shape difference between the Authentic on the left and the rep on the right. I am actually starting to see a little bit of a tone difference in the color of the yellow nubuck as well. You're seeing it's a little bit dustier and paler on the Authentic and just a tad bit darker on the rep. That is starting to pick up a little bit more. I didn't really see that when I was doing my initial glance, but I definitely see that now. That actually seems to carry throughout the entire nubuck upper as well. The rep just seems to have a tad bit darker of a nubuck than the Authentic, but man, it took me like 15 minutes of staring at these just to see that. Everything else honestly just falls under the same rules of your Travis Scott Jordan 1 lows. If you're looking for accuracy, you want to check the positioning of this cactus jack symbol here on the side. You want to have some sort of engagement with the C. This is a size 11.5 men, and this is actually lower than I've seen it in others, but typically I see the C of the cactus jack engage with this stitch a little bit more directly, but I guess technically they're both acceptable for this size range. The one thing that I can say though is that when you feel this, it's not very bold, it's not very prominent, but you can definitely feel the prominence of the cactus jack on the rep for sure. So that's definitely one thing here that you can point to. And even in color, it's a little bit more vibrant on the rep than it is on the Authentic. So that's definitely something to look at. All very, very, very minor things, but still, this is what we're doing. We're kind of grasping at straws here. When we pull out the tongue, I think I see a slight color difference as well. We've got more of a vibrant school bus yellow for the nylon of the tongue, along with a bright Nike Air, while the Authentic is just a tad bit paler on that nylon, and the Nike Air on the tongue is definitely darker. The Cactus Jack side tags look identical to me, but the blue is slightly darker on that as well. All of this stuff is going to be super hard to see. I realize that I definitely need brighter lights in my studio if I'm going to be pointing at slight color differences like this, but hopefully uploading this in 4K will help. But other than that, the feel of the materials is identical. The look of everything comes together in exactly the same way. The outer parts of the shoe just suffer from exactly what we have come to expect when it comes to Travis Scott Jordan 1s, and it's just a color thing. Actually, we come to expect that from reps in general. It's just a color thing. I'd also like to say, always pay attention to the proportions and the shape of everything. When it comes to Travis Scott Jordans, I always want to see the end of this reverse swoosh sitting right underneath that lace hole, and you can see when you compare it to the rep that the placement of those holes is actually pretty different in comparison. So where the swoosh ends is in a different place than on the Authentic pair. Minor detail, but a detail nonetheless. From there, let's take a look at the shoelaces and we'll see if there's really anything that we can tell from here. The first laces that we can take a look at are the yellow laces, and they're definitely flat wax laces on the rep and the Authentic pair, but the laces on the rep are a little bit more of a deeper yellow than the Authentic, and the Authentic is a brighter, paler yellow, kind of similar to almost everything else that's going on the shoe. When you're comparing the Authentic to the rep, you can really get a good look at it right here. On the left, Authentic; on the right, the rep. And as you guys probably already know at this point, it comes with spare laces. Here are my Authentic laces here on the left. Here are my rep laces on the right. One of the things that is always a telltale when it comes to Jordan 1 lows and the laces that come in these boxes is that you can always directly compare the debossing on the boxes, and you'll always see there's a slight difference between them. You'll see that the reps are always a lot more shallow when it comes to the image, and the box color slightly differs as well. Taking the laces out I can kind of see that there's definitely a slight color difference between the rep blue lace and the authentic blue lace as well. To me, it just looks like there's just a slight brightness to the blue of the authentic compared to the blue of the rep. I'll tell you, if it wasn't for the fact that on the back, the reps are just so much more clearly imprinted and stamped, I would have confused which one is which, but I was actually able to verify that this is the authentic box because I have another pair of reps of these and they have the same exact shoelace box. So I know that this is the rep box, but so the blues are a slightly different color. Obviously the same deal when we're talking about the reds. I know that this is the rep because of how clean and crisp that debossing is. And when it comes to the colors, again, just a slight difference. Not a lot, but definitely a slight difference. Those are the laces. But other than that, I guess the only real thing that's left to do is to do a blacklight test and see what comes up. So that's what we're gonna do next. So we've got our black light and we're gonna see what lights up. So first things first, you see the under material underneath the leather tongue is definitely vibrant and reacting to the black light underneath the leather. You're getting a fair bit of reactivity out of that blue reverse swoosh. Not crazy, but it's definitely reacting. Nothing out of that outsole or midsole. Nothing too crazy out of the white embroidery either. That blue swoosh on the other side, definitely reactive. Nothing too crazy. The back of the tongue is lighting up like crazy though. The insole is definitely a little bit reactive, but nothing too crazy. And we do have some reactivity out of the cactus jack symbol here. So I'm not expecting anything too crazy in terms of legit checking when it comes to the blacklight in these, but let's see what the reps are gonna do. You do get some reactivity out of the holes, the perforations, but definitely not as bright as the authentic. We do have some reactivity out of the reverse swoosh. Nothing crazy on the embroidery. Nothing too crazy here. We do have some reactivity on this, just like the authentic. And back of the tongue as well. And the insole. So to be honest, I don't see any difference between the two when it comes to the blacklight. Even though the colors are slightly different, they're reacting in a very predictable and similar ways. So blacklight test, not really a success here. So that was the blacklight test. Pretty uneventful, but before I close off this video, I do want to see what the insoles look like compared to one another. So here we have the authentic insole on the left and the rep on the right. One of the things that I love to do when it comes to these is I like to compare the cactus jack faces on the insoles because they tend to be wrong on the reps, and where they tend to be wrong is that the hair on the rep tends to be a little bit blockier and chunkier, but in this case they actually look very, very similar. In fact, the hair on the authentic pair looks chunkier than the hair on the rep, so that's interesting. In terms of colors and overall look, the images are definitely sharper on the authentic when compared to the rep. You can see the Nike Air definitely has a more crisp outline than the Nike Air on the rep, and the same thing can be said for the Travis Scott letters on there as well, and also the case for the other ones as well. You can really see it in the basketball here compared to the rep on the right. Slight color differences as well on there too. But that's the insoles. So guys, that wraps up our first legit check guide on the Travis Scott Jordan 1 Low Canaries. I started out with this video feeling like there were no differences at all, but the more we broke things down and we looked at things, there are differences for sure. Very subtle. You will probably need an authentic pair to be able to do this, but there's still some reliable tips and tricks that you can use just like any other one. So with that said, guys, remember you can see more pictures of this rep on the Instagram account on the screen. Please do your research, guys. Study up, know what you're looking for, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.